Around Valentine's Day, Jamie Vaughn learns that her bookstore could be torn down by her first love, Sawyer Odell, who is the architect of the redevelopment project. As Sawyer and Jamie meet after 15 years, will old feelings alter the course of their fate? On a bright morning in Waterford, Jamie walks towards her true love bookstore and cafe with her cat Elliot. Alex is confused about what to gift his girlfriend Taylor for Valentine's Day, so he asks for Jamie's opinion. Jamie suggests another book, and Alex calls her a lifesaver. Lucy, who works at the bookstore, comes over to inform Jamie that the fourth business on their block has closed. Jamie doesn't understand what's happening and goes through her mail, in which is an invitation by Ridley to attend the city town council meet. Jamie walks over to her Aunt Anita's flower shop in the same district and shows her the flyer. They know that if Ridley is a property development company, it's very bad news for business owners. Sawyer shows his designs to Ridley for the redevelopment of Waterford Business District to generate more revenue. His boss Dana Sutton likes the adjustments and feels that the Waterford Council will approve them too. Dana feels that since Sawyer is from Waterford, it will help them persuade the community there. Dana informs him that the Waterford Council has asked for a presentation of the designs before they take a vote. They have already secured some properties, but need to ensure everyone in the district agrees with the designs. Dana offers him a permanent position at the company if Sawyer is able to pull this off. Lucy tries to comfort Jamie about the flyer, but Jamie remembers how something similar happened in Tanner Falls. Some developers claim they would only do some improvements, but they wiped out all the stores. Jamie is panicking because she doesn't want to lose her store. Lucy takes Jamie to witness a proposal of two people who met in their bookstore. Rick suddenly joins them, and Jamie points out how that it is the fourth proposal since she bought the place. Rick shares a Valentine's Day voucher for his cooking class with them, and insists it's for singles, including him. Lucy thinks he doesn't count, since he's the teacher. Lucy rushes to attend to a customer when Jamie tells Rick to ask Lucy out directly, instead of making excuses. Jamie tries to work on the first chapter of a romance novel, but struggles. Sawyer is in town and is staying with Rick. Sawyer insists he will only impose for a week, but Rick wants him there and asks for a suggestion about Lucy. Rick knows he is serious this time and cares for her a lot. Rick explains that she liked him too when they first met, but he was dating Megan. Rick feels that he has let a lot of time pass by and doesn't know if Lucy sees him as just a friend. He asks Sawyer to come with him to the Valentine's cooking class as his wingman. Jamie spots a woman she wants to avoid and tries to hide. Sawyer is looking around when he spots the True Love bookstore and decides to enter. He arrives just in time to catch a book Jamie has thrown by mistake. When Sawyer looks at her on a ladder, he quotes Romeo and Juliet. Sawyer feels he wasn't expecting to run into her, even if he knows this is her favorite place. Jamie gets down and greets him properly again, and they head out to check the courtyard. Jamie shows him a tree and explains that the bookstore is built around it. She informs him about the developers who are trying to buy the land to destroy everything. Sawyer feels it might not be too bad, but Jamie is worried about her bookstore. Sawyer is confused, but learns Jamie bought the bookstore a few years ago. He feels awkward as the architect for Ridley and gets saved by a phone call from Dana. Jamie enters the meeting, and Eric Duncan, the new councilman, introduces himself. Jamie has some ideas about other ways of generating revenue, but Eric leaves to talk to Sawyer. As Sawyer comes towards them, Anita greets him warmly, and he tries to explain why he's there, but Dana comes in. Dana insists she's confident Sawyer's design will convince the council, which is a shock for Jamie, but Sawyer confirms he is the architect for the project. Jamie's bookstore is doing well, but she approaches Lucy to rant about the project's intention of wiping out all stores. Jamie is furious that Sawyer is a part of it and didn't tell her. Lucy asks about how long they dated, and Jamie discusses how they met in 8th grade, but started dating in sophomore year. While Sawyer was the prom king, she was the girl who stayed late in the library. Jamie feels those differences could have driven them apart, but it happened only after graduation. Sawyer gave her a big speech before college about not wanting to be so serious at their age, since he was going to Columbia and she was staying back at Reed. Lucy feels sad they broke up, but Jamie knows it was a long time ago. Jamie is proud of their desserts in the cafe, and Lucy informs her that Rick is working on a new recipe. She needs her to come with her to Rick's cooking class that night, in case she meets someone. Jamie tries to find out what Lucy thinks about Rick, but she doesn't respond to his name. Lucy feels she will know when she meets the guy, and they will share a moment. At the grocery store, Sawyer thinks Rick should have told him that Jamie bought the bookstore. Rick reminds him of a few years ago, when he mentioned about Jamie dating a dentist, but Sawyer didn't want to hear about it. Rick now informs him that Jamie is single, which makes Sawyer curious. He asks what happened with the dentist, and Rick explains that he moved to Texas a year ago, even if they were serious, and he wanted Jamie to move with him. Sawyer knows Jamie doesn't like him too much right now, and Rick also explains how Jamie has started focusing a lot more on her bookstore, which he's trying to pull down. While cleaning the bookstore, Jamie feels they need to fight back. She bends down to pick something up, but finds a hidden book called The Story of Us, with a lot of Valentine cards. Lucy and Jamie go through the collection of Valentines from old customers that the previous owner, Mr. Ogilvy, must have kept. They read out the cards from people expressing how they found love through the store, and Lucy thinks they need to display these for the customers, giving Jamie an idea. Before entering the cooking class with Lucy, Jamie discusses the cards with someone on the phone. They spot Sawyer with Anita, and Rick asks everyone to divide into pairs. While Jamie agrees to go with Eric, Sawyer pairs up with Anita. Lucy also finds a man she likes, Quentin, and asks if he wants to pair up. When she compliments his sweater, Rick starts getting jealous. Jamie watches Sawyer and Rick gesturing to each other, and knows it's about Lucy. She feels if a guy wants to tell a girl he likes her, or is backstabbing a friend, they should communicate properly. Sawyer follows Jamie to get the salad, and apologizes for not mentioning his involvement with Ridley. Jamie still thinks that him being with Ridley will not stop her from fighting them. Sawyer knows she is planning something. Anita reads an article with Jamie's interview about how important the bookstore is for the community, and how it needs to be saved. Jamie discusses with Anita how the vote for the project has been moved up to February 14th. They know Ridley is putting pressure on the council to decide, but also believe the article has generated a lot of interest in the store. Jamie thinks the vote could end with Eric having a final say. Anita points out that Eric likes her, which even Sawyer noticed during the cooking class. Dana shows Sawyer the article, and points out how his job was to convince the community to cooperate. Sawyer insists he is working on meeting other business owners, but Dana wants him to focus on Jamie. Sawyer feels Jamie can be passionate about her causes, which is a cause of concern for Dana. Sawyer clarifies that they dated in high school, but now they are just friendly. Dana asks him to keep being civil, since any animosity between them could lead to this deal not going through. Meanwhile, True Love Bookstore is swarming with dozens of people checking the Valentine's cards and buying books. Lucy informs Jamie they're out of cookies, and Jamie is thrilled with the response their store is getting. She gets a call from her ex-boyfriend Matt, just when Sawyer also walks in and smiles at her. He approaches Jamie to congratulate her on the article, but asks what she thinks of his designs. Jamie thinks they're perfect for Sweden, but not for a place like Waterford, and insists she has to go back to work. Sawyer is upset about Jamie's article and discusses it with Rick, since the place has become popular. Rick is still sore about Quentin, who exchanged numbers with Lucy and is meeting her for dinner. Sawyer agrees with Jamie and feels that Rick needs to tell Lucy how he feels. Rick feels he should have told her sooner, but directly pivots the topic to what Sawyer will do about Jamie. Sawyer knows only Olga's dance studio in the business district is willing to sit down with him, so Rick points out that Jamie has the advantage of living there longer. Sawyer discusses that getting a permanent job from Ridley will finally make him settle down. Rick suggests that Sawyer should approach this in a more friendly way. Jamie is sitting at home and checks the Story of Us box again, finding some letters. She starts reading the letters from the original owners of the bookstore, Mary and Harris. She explains to Lucy the next day that Harris broke up with Mary before going overseas during World War II, because he didn't want her to wait. But Mary kept writing letters, which gave him hope. Jamie is in love with this love story and wants something like that for herself. Someone hands them coffee, but Jamie gets angry when she notices the Ridley logo. Lucy points towards Sawyer, who's trying to talk to people about the project. Sawyer insists he loves Waterford, and how Chuck's dad at the pizzeria gave him his first job. Sawyer assures them that he is trying to make the place better. Jamie decides to join them, and asks Sawyer how long he has been missing from Waterford. When she questions how he came up with the designs without visiting the place for over a decade, Sawyer tries to maintain his cool. Jamie asks Beth about the hobby warehouse she has had for 35 years. She points at Sawyer and insists that people from Portland want to suddenly pull down something people have worked hard to build. Rick offers to help Lucy while they discuss the feud between Jamie and Sawyer. Rick compliments Lucy on her looks, but Lucy thinks he's being sweet as a friend. Lucy informs him that Quentin is stopping by, and Rick asks if she has had her wow moment with him. Lucy feels he's nice, but she's only had a wow moment with one guy. Rick is about to ask about that guy more, but right at the wrong moment, Quentin turns up with flowers. Sawyer feels Jamie is being unfair. Just when the woman Jamie was running away from earlier, Karen Van Horn, spots Jamie and comes to greet her. She introduces herself to Sawyer and recognizes him as Jamie's ex. Karen insists that Matt talks about Jamie all the time, and Sawyer learns that she's Matt's mother. Sawyer understands a gesture from Jamie and insists they both need to leave for a lunch reservation. When they are safely away, Jamie explains that if it were up to Karen, she and Matt would be together forever. Sawyer remembers the time in school when they skipped algebra just like this, and Jamie charmed her way into getting them out of detention. Sawyer insists he was truly happy to see her at the bookstore before things got complicated. Jamie was happy to see him too, since it reminded her of the time they first met in the same bookstore, when they both wanted the same book, The Princess Bride. Jamie remembers he had just arrived in town then, and she was his second friend after Rick. They're both hungry now, and head to Jeff's, where Sawyer orders the same ice cream he got on their first date. Jamie reveals that she moved to Minnesota after graduating from Reed to work as a reporter, but soon realized how much she missed Waterford. When she got back 6 years ago, Mr. Ogilvy made her the manager of the store, and she later bought it. Sawyer is surprised she lived outside Oregon, and Jamie remembers what he said when they broke up. Jamie agrees that people should go out and have experiences before they decide where to settle down. While heading back, Sawyer asks if Jamie has been writing, and learns she hasn't published anything. They reach a duck crossing, which amuses Sawyer, so Jamie explains how a woman got the local preservation society to designate the area as a bird sanctuary. Sawyer jokes about ducks following road rules, which makes Jamie laugh out loud. Just then, Sawyer gets called by Chuck, whose dad wants to say hi to him. Sawyer feels bad, but Jamie asks him to go ahead. Later, Rick is preparing for a Valentine wine tasting at the restaurant, and Sawyer knows it must be for Lucy. Rick discusses how he saw Lucy earlier and feels like something is happening. Jamie is mad about Sawyer shaking hands with Chuck's dad. Anita reminds her that they worked together a long time ago. Jamie admits she's just mad at Sawyer because he's winning people over. Anita shows her an offer she got from Ridley with a 20% increase from their last offer. Anita doesn't want to accept it, but Jamie knows other shops must have it too. Olga and Beth discuss with Jamie how the offer is great, and it feels like they're delaying the inevitable. Jamie insists nothing is final till the vote, and wants everyone to be against it. She reminds them of what happened at Tanner Falls, and insists how important it is to fight for their shops. She notices Chuck hesitating, and asks about it. Dana calls to congratulate Sawyer about getting Chuck to sign the agreement this morning, because he liked his dad's old employee working on the redesign. But Dana wants to know how things are with Jamie. Sawyer spots Jamie in a talk with all the owners. He claims that it is a work in progress, but Dana reminds him how important it is to convince Jamie before the vote. Jamie walks into the bookstore and discusses with Elliot what they'll do if they have to shut down. Jamie opens the box again and starts reading the letter from Harris about having something to fight for, and how Mary's stories of Waterford are inspiring him. She gets an idea and texts Lucy to meet her. They start preparing copies of the letters for the Fire and Ice Festival to bring people back to the bookstore if they want to know what's next. Jamie meets Sawyer and brings him to his favorite building in Waterford. She asks if Sawyer missed the town and wants to remind him of what he left behind. She takes him across the town, and at dinner, she makes him read the letter and explains how, even if Mary's father owned the bookstore, Harris came back and bought the property. Sawyer admits the place is magical. She gets another call from Matt, but she decides to ignore it. Sawyer asks if she wanted to go to Texas with Matt, but Jamie feels she was reliving not going to Columbia with Sawyer, so she didn't know what she wanted. It doesn't matter who left or stayed, because their decisions have made them who they are today. At Rick's wine tasting, Sawyer encourages Rick to talk to Lucy. He remembers exactly what Lucy likes, and reminds her of the first time they met. Lucy remembers their meeting differently, and reminds Rick that she thought he was hilarious. Just then, Quentin comes in and joins Lucy. Rick awkwardly helps Lucy and Quentin find their seats, when Sawyer suggests to Jamie that they can send Lucy a Valentine from Rick. Jamie doesn't approve of meddling, so he offers to drop her home. Jamie wants to know about Sawyer's love life, so he admits there was once a woman called Sarah, and he even came close enough to proposing. Sarah met another man, so they broke up, but Sawyer knows they were just pretending to be a couple, and there was no real connection. They reach Jamie's place, and she reveals she bought it after her parents left for their retirement trip. Sawyer is glad she kept the house, because he has always wanted to own a house like this. Sawyer admits that the project for Ridley is important for him to finally settle down. They share a moment, and are about to kiss when Matt calls out to Jamie. Sawyer leaves to let them talk. Matt explains that after reading her article about the bookstore, he was overcome with regret, and knows he misses her. He suggests that if it closes, she can move to him with Texas and open another bookstore there. Matt feels they had something special, and he wants to try again. Jamie needs time to think about it, though, distracted by her new rising feelings for Sawyer. At the Fire and Ice Festival, Jamie and Lucy are distributing letters to the crowd, all of whom seem to be hooked on Harris and Mary's love story. Rick asks if Sawyer is still pretending he doesn't have feelings for her. Sawyer admits Jamie is still the one for him, and he doesn't understand how, despite being smart and talented men, they are not able to figure this out. Lucy points out how many guy issues Jamie suddenly has, and Jamie admits she's confused, because she knows Matt is a great guy, but she can't uproot what she's built to go with him. Lucy asks if Sawyer was jealous when he saw Matt, but Jamie doesn't want to think about it, and asks Lucy to distract her with a Quentin story. Lucy informs her that Quentin isn't in the picture anymore, because there was no spark with him. She looks over at Rick and smiles, finally admitting that she has felt the spark with Rick from the moment she met him. Jamie spots Sawyer and informs him about Lucy's confession. She insists they need to do some scheming to get them together, and they get an idea of how they can use food to help them. Lucy walks over to Rick's stand, and Sawyer and Jamie try to spy on them. It turns out Jamie sent her there on false pretenses, but when the two get to chatting, Lucy finally plucks up the courage to reveal that she and Quentin are no more, and she felt the spark with Rick 2 years ago. He's delighted, and the pair end up kissing. Sawyer and Jamie cannot contain their excitement. However, Jamie insists she needs to clear up some things with Matt, and with the council vote happening soon, she doesn't feel it's the right time. Sawyer suggests he can take her to a pre-Valentine dinner, where they can discuss this properly. When Matt turns up to talk to Jamie, she just apologizes, thanks him for everything, and hugs him goodbye. Dana comes into Jamie's store and looks around. She admits the article was a popular move, but she feels Jamie is fighting a losing battle. Jamie feels it's not, since her store is very popular. But Dana insists this will all fade away once Valentine's Day is over and the lure of love is gone. Dana reminds Jamie that the council will go forward with Ridley's redesign, since Sawyer has persuaded more stores to join them. Jamie suddenly remembers why Sawyer is there, and Dana points to the bigger issue of her future, believing that if Jamie doesn't take their offer now, and she is the only one at the council protesting, they might take her store anyway and offer her a much lower price. She gives her final offer to Jamie and notes how lovely her store is, and that she feels sorry for making her do this. Sawyer comes in and watches Jamie sitting sadly with the offer letter. She informs him that his boss came by, which reminded her why he is there, just to persuade everyone, including her, to sell. Jamie wants to know if he was just pretending to like Waterford, or if he actually feels something about the town. Sawyer insists that he is back to give Waterford a second chance. He admits this is the place where his home is, and where he fell in love. Jamie reminds him that it was all in the past, and doesn't know if she can believe it when Sawyer says he still thinks about her, because she thinks he will walk away again. Jamie feels they should stay in the past, and insists she doesn't want to get dinner. She respects what he's fighting for, but she can't be involved in this. Sawyer knows he can't argue with that. As he walks back, he remembers the letter he took from the shop, and opens it to find something written by Harris for Mary, where Harris believes they can overcome any obstacle and find a way, since that is the power of true love. Sawyer looks up at the tree and gets an idea, then takes out a napkin to draw something. He continues with his designs on his laptop, and focuses on getting something concrete. Meanwhile, Jamie is trying to shape her novel around Mary and Harris's love story. Sawyer comes into Dana's office and informs her about the tree in the courtyard outside the bookstore. Sawyer insists he has a new idea for Waterford redesign, after keeping in mind that the builders went to great lengths to preserve that tree. Jamie meets Anita at her shop and discusses how bad she feels about not stopping the feelings she was getting back for Sawyer. Anita feels she shouldn't, because even if the love doesn't work out, it still has value. Jamie knows for sure she doesn't want to get back with Matt, but feels weird that her story with Sawyer ended this way. Anita has seen how they look at each other even now, and knows that there's true love there. At the council meeting, Dana introduces herself and discusses how Ridley wants to withdraw their current redesign proposal to offer a new one. Eric wants to know if they understand that this will postpone the vote. Dana knows it's against her business instincts, but her creative instincts suggest that they need to see the new designs Sawyer has come up with. Sawyer takes the floor and discusses how everyone wants Waterford Business District to succeed, but still preserve the history. He announces that after talking to Jamie, he was persuaded to consider a new route for the design. He shows them his new designs with the bookstore intact, which also preserves the tree. When Sawyer is done, Jamie asks to speak, and insists that they all know she has been leading the opposition against the project. She feels that Sawyer's new designs are giving it a much-needed positive direction for their future, and she offers her full support. Eric agrees with her, but postpones the meeting for next week. Dana congratulates Sawyer for his work, and Sawyer thanks her for all the support. But he insists he needs to build a home in Waterford, so he can't take the permanent position at Ridley. Dana feels he has just displayed his immense talent for convincing the community, and she's not ready to let him go yet. She encourages him to be in Waterford for the current project and for building his home, but suggests they can negotiate after he is done. When Dana leaves, Sawyer looks around for Jamie and gets a Valentine's letter from Lucy on her behalf. He heads towards the bookstore and walks through a path filled with candles. He comes across a dinner table with the book that led them to each other, and Jamie comes out from behind him to inform him that she's working on a new novel. She starts narrating the plot, where a girl and boy meet, fall in love, and get separated. In this story, they're brought back together, just to realize it was always true love. Jamie insists she needs Sawyer's help to finish the story, and Sawyer knows he will always be there for her.